So the first gig I ever did, it's one of the toughest gigs of my life since, actually. It was for a ladies' annual tennis dinner. It was 40 basically drunk women. I was 15 years old, and they said, come along, do those tricks you've been doing, and we'll pass a hat round afterwards. And I remember walking to that room terrified that these 40 women, they thought I was some sort of weird stripper. And I remember going, oh, I'm not a stripper, please pick a card. And it was tough. I got through it. At the end of it, the hat went round and they all put £1 in. I went, oh, I've made £30. I'm like the richest kid in Solihull. It's amazing. So I never planned to actually do this full time. I was always doing magic and I thought I had to get a proper job. So I went to university, I got a degree, I got a proper job behind a desk and everything with a tie, and I had to be a trainee chartered surveyor. And then one day I realised, you know what, this isn't for me, and if I'm going to do something for the next 40 years, I want to try and really enjoy it. So I quit my job, and I remember day one going, oh, I need to make a living now. So I went to Stratford-upon-Avon, which is my nearest town, and started to street perform, and I would busk and earn money that way and pay my bills. And eventually I created a YouTube channel where I used to have a YouTube show, which sounds a bit weird now, but I used to stalk celebrities and then use magic and then doorstep them and film me doing magic to celebrities. And eventually I turned it into an online show. ITV saw it, and then I eventually got my own TV show. And that's called Tricked, and I've done 3 series of that now. So it's been a fun journey, really. One of the best reactions I've ever had to a trick was making Joey Essex think that I'd built a time machine and that I went back in time. Now, some of you might think that Joey Essex isn't that hard to fool. Well, maybe. But I've always had this trick in my mind for years and years about, I loved Back to the Future, and I've always wanted to do the idea of making a car vanish as you drive it. And I thought, if anyone could believe that, it'd be Joey Essex. So I convinced him through science labs and coats and things like that this is a real scientific thing and that time travel exists and I can go back in time, and I do it, and then I come back and he genuinely can't get his head around how he's just seen a real life time machine. It was brilliant. And what was great is I've never seen magic invoke that kind of curiosity in someone. My job in general is a bit weird. You get paid to go to these weird places and do sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours, sometimes just 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And the weirdest one, I got flown out to a yacht in the south of France to do 10 minutes of magic to Kim Kardashian. That was a weird evening and didn't get much sleep, and then I flew home literally on the first flight back out, and then I was filming in London at 9 in the morning. So that was a weird 24 hours. What's great about a magician on stage is, depending on their act, they often get people involved. So a comedian is great, but often you're listening to somebody, whereas if the magician can bring John from Accounts up on stage and do something with them, I don't know if there is a John from Accounts, I'm making that up, or if they can do a trick that's tailored to that particular company or that particular message, that can be really quite powerful. So for example, I do a trick at the moment where I get every single person to help me with the trick, but it's involving 4 pictures of 4 of the heads of the business. So we can have a bit of fun with it. And the key is to keep it fun, to keep it light, because when people are at an event, they don't really want to have a good think, they do want to have a good laugh and enjoy themselves. And if you can do that and amaze them, then that's great. So often with magic, it's great to get an idea of what the event is doing, what the goals are of the event, and the company and the branding, and see if we can come up with a trick that tailors towards that. So in the past, you can do things like make the MD appear, make them the superstar of the night, or if you have an actual product, for example, if you're working with a drinks company, what tricks can you do with the drinks, and so on and so forth. Or even just get certain members of the audience that the client has maybe suggested ahead of time might be fun to deal with, and get them on board, because then there's real talkability afterwards. Because people often think with magic on TV there's actors and stooges, whereas if you know there's certain people that they picked out that are definitely not in on it, it makes it way more authentic and it feels more personal to that event. So over the last few years, I've worked with a number of brands like Asda, Umbro, Premier League, and they often come to me with a brief. And what's great about that is they don't know what the solution is. They say, we've got an idea that something could be amazing, or it could be incredible, or magical, or mysterious, or fun, or cheeky. What would be your solution to this? And I work with that brand and go, well, here's a potential solution. And I'll give you an example. For Asda, it was their 50th anniversary of the pocket tap, you know, where they tap their pockets and it goes, you know, tap, tap. So they said, is there a trick you can do to our customers involving the pocket tap where we can then film it and put it online? So I came up with a trick where I could get random customers in random Asda stores to put a handful of change in their pocket, tap it, and I could just by listening to it, tell them the exact amount of change in their pocket. And we went around and we filmed it, and then we put it online, and it got, I think, over 1 million views on Facebook in about 3 days. And that was great for Asda because it was exactly the message they want, and but it wasn't ramming it down their throat. It was done in a bit of a different way, and it was a real fun project for them. So the great thing about hosting is that it does appeal to a whole range of events. So whether it be an awards ceremony where the brief is very simple, come out, do 15 minutes, get the audience going, do some amazing magic, and then get into the awards, that's great. Or sometimes it can be a longer event where you're there throughout the day, and I'm sometimes dropping the magic in as an energizer. So maybe after lunch or later on in the afternoon, just to keep the energy going wherever it needs to be. Well, one thing I do offer is a hidden camera experience. So I'll give you an example. I would go undercover as, let's say, the security guard at an event. Obviously you can tell that people don't question that. And before the event starts, I will target a few people that maybe have been alerted to me in advance. I'll pull them to a side room and I'll basically say to them a number of different things, whether they're too drunk or whether their passes aren't correct, whether they've snuck in or whether their seat has been given to somebody a bit more higher up the food chain, whatever it is. And I'll wind them up and then I'll do some magic and they'll enjoy the experience and I'll send them back on their way. But what they don't realise is I've actually filmed that on hidden cameras. And then later on in the evening or at the start of the show, I'll come up on stage and I will present that entire video to the audience. And it's great fun because you get to see your colleagues or people you know being wound up like you would see on the TV. So it feels like you're watching a TV show made for your company. I guess one of the moments that stands out for me was doing a trick to 2,000 people at the Palladium for ITV that was aired on TV to 5 million people. And the trick involved using every single person from the audience. So every single person has an envelope. I get them all to do something, to mix some pieces of paper up, to rip things up, to help me out. And eventually, if it all works, they've all contributed towards the trick and they've been a part of it. And it's one of my favorite tricks that I do. And it was just amazing to do that at the Palladium. I guess the thing about magic is it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, which language you speak, whatever's going on in your day, how stressful you are, that your phone's going off every 10 seconds. If you do a really good trick, it just makes everyone just stop just for that second and go, sorry, what just happened? And it's great that whoever you are, you get that same reaction. And it's just really nice to see that in people's faces.